After 2 years and a month-long trial comprising 13 witnesses, Acting High Court Judge Stuart Wilson is today expected to sentence Ntuthuko Shoba for his role in the Tshegofatso Pule murder case. Wilson spent yesterday at the High Court in Johannesburg listening to pre-sentencing arguments from both the defence and state on what would be the ideal sentence for Shoba. He has been convicted of murdering his 8-month pregnant girlfriend Tshegofatso Pule in June 2020. SABC News specialist reporter Hasina Gori has been following the story and joins us now in studio. Very good morning to you, Hasina. You know, you were saying yesterday when we had a conversation that up to now Shoba had not shown any remorse. His legal representatives yesterday pleading for him not to be given the life sentence. What was it like there?
Good morning, Desiree. And yes, I think that issue of remorse came up a lot yesterday. His defense arguing that him not pleading guilty or still maintaining his innocence right to now and means that he cannot show any remorse in the court, and that should not be seen as an aggravating circumstance, and that should not see him as a reason for him to be given a cruel or an inhumane sentence. But the state, on the other hand, arguing that that should be seen as an aggravating circumstance, that he showed no remorse. While he showed sympathy for the loss of life, he hasn't taken any accountability for his part in this. His defense really asking the court that he has a co-accused, Muzikayise Malepane, who was a hitman. He's pleaded guilty. He's come out. He's got a plea agreement with the state, and he was sentenced for 20 years. So his defense saying there should be parity in the sentencing, and he should be also given the 20 years and not a life imprisonment, which could see him spending, the rest of his natural life behind bars. Calling also for them to take into account the amount of time he spent while waiting on sentencing as well, and take that off his current sentencing. So really pleading with the court not to bring that maximum sentence, which, given the seriousness of the crime, this is the normative sentence that he could see himself, or the statutory sentence.
Just in terms of Judge Wilson's disposition and his responses to what was being put forward to him, what are your thoughts there?
So he's really, what we've noticed with Judge Stuart Wilson throughout the trial is that he's someone who asks a lot of questions for clarity. He look at every side to ensure, and he's agreed that while the lack of remorse should not be necessarily a aggravating circumstance, it means a neutral. But it should be taken into account that he hasn't showed any remorse. And the state argued quite succinctly on this matter, saying that the reason why they look for remorse in sentencing means that if someone shows remorse, they can be rehabilitated. And South Africa's judicial system is not punitive, but rehabilitation. And it means that if you don't show remorse, you can't be rehabilitated. And that might be seen as something that will be used against Shoba when sentencing handed out. So really trying to ensure that both sides, you don't know exactly where he's leaning. We know the family, as I said yesterday, had really wanted a double life sentence, a deviation, but we didn't hear that from the state, really calling for 2 life sentence for not just the life that was lost of Tshegofatso Pule, but also the life that was lost for that unborn baby who was 9 months old, she was carrying at that time. So it will be interesting to see whether or not Judge Stuart Wilson goes with either the state of defense or finds his own path in this and gives a completely different ruling or sentence handout.
This finalization will be quite a moment for the family.
And it's been seen yesterday in court. We saw the family, we saw also political parties, we saw activist groups that were there, quite a huge number. The Gender Brigade being there as well, they've been through. And I think what really stood out for this case is this was the first murder that we heard of during lockdown, during that time when everyone was still at home. And there's something that the state said yesterday is that Shoba comes across a very calculated man, a very cold, emotionless. We did not see him shed one tear, even when they played that video footage of the last time that Tshegofatso Pule was ever seen alive. We saw it multiple times in court, and he never once, showed any kind of emotion also for the loss of that baby. So I think that the family now hopefully getting some closure, but also for Shoba's family, they've been in court through this entire process, not really wanting to speak to the media, saying they'll speak when it's finalized. So hopefully today also getting from them how hard it has been for them through this as well.
All right, final moments approaching. I don't know if you've spoken to legal experts. What are we able to predict what?
The normative or the grounds for statutory kind of charges that will be given the offences would be a life imprisonment. Given that he was found guilty of murder. So from what legal analysts say, that you can expect that to be what will be handed down. But as I said, it'll be interesting to see if there's any deviation.
We'll be watching to see what happens. Hasina Gori, specialist reporter here at the SABC.